Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Future of Golf podcast, where we speak to the brightest minds in golf every single week. This week is no exception. We are speaking to Simon Wordsworth, who is not only a PGA Master professional, but the founder of the 59 Club, who are improving member experience at golf clubs throughout the world. Simon also joins us from England. Nice to speak to another fellow UK native on the podcast as well. I believe you're around Yorkshire, Simon, is it?
I am, yeah. I reside in North Yorkshire, so it's beautiful, but a bit chilly at this moment in time.
Yeah, I bet you're looking forward to escaping to Orlando for the show, putting on a few pairs of
There's nothing
shorts.
wrong with a little bit of sun every month, is there? And
Yeah,
then cloud it as work. It's got to be the way to do it going forwards.
yeah. If anyone isn't in the golf industry, the big secret is we all escape for a few weeks of sunshine and beers at the end of January every year. So if you ever need a selling point to get into the world of golf, then that's probably it. I went to the PGA show for the first time last year, Simon. So I didn't know about that little secret that the industry had, but I'm here for it for sure.
Yeah, it's got to be worth resigning your job and finding a job in golf just for that week. I think I'm with you on that.
Absolutely. And it seems like your travel schedule is pretty packed after that as well, Simon. So you mentioned from Orlando, you're going Saudi and then.
Yeah, I'll be off into Saudi Arabia and probably Germany in February, and then in March we're into our 59 Club Awards season. So um, different members of staff will head off in different directions. Be like a firework disappearing out of the UK, and my turn to go westward. So I'll be in Canada and America, and my colleagues will be around Europe and into Middle East and Asia. So
Hmm. And I'm sure a lot of people viewing will be wondering how you get to travel so much. So I think we should start off maybe because I know that your experience led you to the eventuality of founding the 59 Club and then, being able to travel and do all these things within the world of golf. Do you want to maybe talk to us a little bit more about your journey as a professional, and then maybe first of all how you actually stumbled across the game and kind of realized that you wanted to do that as a career path?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And stumbled is probably the right word. I mean, I did O levels, A levels, and I was probably going to be an accountant to be honest. But that last year of education, I tended to spend a lot of time playing golf, playing cricket, playing pool, anything that was round you could hit or
Yeah.
had any kind of competitive edge tended to be more academic, more interest of me at that age of 17 and 18 than academic was. But I did all right. I got 4 A levels and 10 O levels, and I was probably going to be an accountant. I love numbers. I love spreadsheets. Even now, I still do. But the golf club that I was at, the golf pro was retired after being there for 30 odd years, and a new golf pro took over, and he was from Lancashire and got 2 young kids, and it was going to be September before his children could come over with his wife, and he started in May, and he asked our chairman if there was anybody in the club who could do a couple of days for them over the summer. And unbelievably lucky for me, our chairman picked the phone up and rang me and said, "Simon, do you fancy a part-time job for a couple of days a week?" So I met a guy called Paul Shepherd. His son David Shepherd ended up being a golf pro, and he's pro at the Wisley in London now, or just about to be the pro chief exec of the Wisley in London. Um, and But it was his dad, and we met up. And luckily for me, he gave me a job, and that was the end of my dream of being an accountant and the start of my journey into the PGA. So I was off 4 at the time, got down to 1 by the time I turned pro. Did my PGA exams for 3 years. Came sort of joint second in that. Wasn't good enough to win it, but likewise did pretty well. And then applied for a few jobs, and I had some good mentors at the time. So I worked in some good places. A guy called Mark Pearson, who's a PGA golf pro, who runs academies now. I was lucky to spend probably a year and a half working for Mark. Taught me a lot about retail, a lot about coaching. He taught some good players. So the little gaps that I got from being at a little private club got filled quite nicely, and I suppose made me into a decent all round person to employ. And I applied for assistant golf operations manager's job at the Belfry
Mm-hmm.
in 1991, end of 91. And they probably gave it to me because I was the cheapest alternative. I definitely wasn't the best qualified because I was 22 and young, and uh, and yeah, very raw to what golf really was about, especially somewhere like the Belfry. But they must have
Yeah.
seen something in me. I got lucky, and Rob Maxfield, who's chief executive PGA now, was the guy that employed me, and I worked with Rob for probably 13, 14 years, and then took over at the Belfry for a couple of years on my own. So 3 years on my own. So very, very lucky to get in, and then lucky again to get for somebody to put a bit of faith in me when there was probably better qualified people.
Mm.
And I just got into the Belfry at the right time, right place, right time, and two Ryder Cups and loads of tour events, and probably the busiest golf or fastest growing golf operation in Europe, if not outside of that, for a long period of time.
Mm.
Gave me some brilliant experiences, to be honest.
Yeah. I was thinking there that the Ryder Cup would have fell within your time period. What was it like to be around for those events? That must have been special.
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, the first one was the scale of it, what you consider the Ryder Cup to be now, with massive tented villages and whatever. It still had that. It had that back then, but just nothing anywhere near on the scale. So if you
Yeah.
imagine in 1993's Ryder Cup, our shop was open to the public. And there was
Wow.
one little IMG outlet out on the golf course that was only the same size as our shop, and then a little standalone sort of porta cabiny sort of thing somewhere else, and uh, that was the extent of retail in Ryder Cup, and we didn't even have. If you think of the discussions at the time, we didn't even put all of our shop over to Ryder Cup merchandise. We
It
actually
sounds
kept. Yeah,
strange. Yeah.
it's unbelievable how things have changed, and we actually kept some space back for Oscar Jacobson, for Boss, for Jaeger at the time. We're probably one of our biggest clothing selling brands in the shop. So it really weird. But I mean, brilliant experience, just a brilliant experience to be around, and golf operations ran the changing rooms and all, and where the caddies were, and all the players were around, and the driving range was just outside our door. So it was it was absolutely superb, really. And then 2002 Ryder Cup, very different. Massive scale, great experience for me. We did all the online retail of Ryder Cup merchandise, and IMG did the outside retail. We did inside closed off, bespoke, sort of high end merchandise for hotel residents and stuff like that. And whereas the first Ryder Cup, I saw absolutely nothing of the Ryder Cup itself. Second one was a little bit different, and I vowed not to let that happen again. And a really funny story, really, is we were sat about a month before trying to figure out how to actually get inside the ropes and see. So as much as we got access all areas passes, and I could go and stand at the back of the driving range and watch them hit balls and whatever. Inside the ropes was very different because they'd had a few problems with Valderrama in '97, with celebrities being in the wrong place, and too many people being inside the ropes and whatever. So it was really tight. And we were just sat discussing it, and our head greenkeeper at the time, a guy called Bevan Tattersall, said, "Well, why don't you do bunker raking for me?" So
Interesting.
I looked at my golf ops manager at the time, a guy called Mark Reed. I went, "Reed, did you fancy being a bunker raker?" And he went, yeah. So we did match 11 on Sunday of Ryder Cup, which was Phil Mickelson against Philip Price, which was a stunning game that Price won on the 16th. So basically, I got rid of my suit at 12 o'clock on Sunday, got changed into my greenkeeper's jacket, got hold of my rake, and the guys went unbelievably. The guys went into one bunker. They both went into the same bunker. Their balls were really close together, so there was no raking in between. They both splashed it out, which was on the third hole. They both splashed it out as gimmies, picked it up and walked off. So we had one bunker to rake and
There you go.
the best seat in the house. But one interesting thing is the pressure on raking a bunker. And we had to have Bevan had to give us real good proper lessons on how the tour wanted it done and stuff like that. But one real interesting thing is raking a bunker when Tiger Woods and Jasper Parnevik are back on the third fairway waiting to go for the green is like the pressure that you've got to
Yeah.
doing your
Uh,
rake is unbelievable. It's worse than playing golf. It was worse than playing
uh,
golf. It's worse than
I
having to
can
hold a
imagine
6 footer.
if Tiger found himself in a wreck mark, you would never forgive yourself if that would happen.
Exactly. And we were looking at our bunker, we're thinking, oh, we just need to go back and touch a bit. But they're already like ready to get. The guys are ready to go. They were waiting to go for the green. So that's the Ryder Cup's got we've got hundreds of stories. It was a brilliant experience. A lot of them that can't be told, but the few that can be told are really. It's just a if anybody ever gets the chance to work at a Ryder Cup venue or to volunteer to work at a Ryder Cup, just do it. They're like no other event that golf has. They're just unbelievable. They're awesome.
Awesome. And I know you mentioned, Simon, that you had success going through the PGA training program as well. So you said you came second out of everyone in your division for that. Maybe a lot of people don't know what that process is
Joint,
actually like
joint
to be.
second. Don't joint second. Don't
It's
overstate it.
still second. You're too modest. Do you want to explain a little bit on what that process is actually like? Like, what do you have to go through to become a professional, or even like a
Yeah,
starting point becoming a pro?
I mean, now it's very different to what I went through. When I went through, you had to be 5 handicap or better. I think have a couple of GCSEs. That's about it, and on you went. And you just needed a golf pro to work with. You had to work in a pro shop at the time, and basically you went for a 1 week residential course. They gave you a list of headings to write about, and that's and a training manual. And at the time, it was a brilliant piece of work. But if you look at what the guys do now, it's not a patch on the way that education's progressed. It's wonderful now. And you had to go off and research everything that you wanted to then write about, and you sent it in, and you passed or you failed, and you had 5 areas, which were rules of golf, repairs, teaching, uh, business, and I can't remember golf clubs, I think, technology, and you filled your stuff in on that. You sent it in each year, and they gave you a mark, and off you went. And you got A, B, C. You got A, B, C, D, or fail, I think, with the grades. And there was one lad who got 5 A's who was best, and then the 3 of us who got, I think, 3 A's and 2 B's. And that was the couple of hundred people that went through it in when I did it in 1990. And nowadays, because my youngest son is going through it, so Kieran is a first year trainee or second year trainee now. The work that they have to go through is a hell of a lot more in depth and much greater coverage. There's a lot more sports science stuff, a lot more mental stuff, trying to understand the person in front of you than what
Hmm.
we were ever taught. But now I think the handicap can actually be higher now. So the standard of golf's not exactly the driver, because I think they've already decided that if you're going to be a player, you're going to be a player. if you're going to come into the business, then you're not necessarily going to be focusing on the playing side of what you do. So you've got to be good enough to demo shots and hit lows and fares and highs and draws and do all that kind of stuff. But I think the handicap restriction is about 6, I think now, I want to say.
Wow.
But then the education side of it is a lot more testing. So I think that the type of person that's going through it now is a more educated golfer rather than a good golfer who hasn't made it, who then looks at other alternatives. It's probably more somebody who's decided the business of golf is going to be my career,
Mm.
and they're off down that road, and it's really good. I mean, I get to Kieran shows me his work after he's sent it in, and it's brilliant education for me. I'm learning lots by reading the work that he's submitting. So it's good. It's good. It's a really good in depth program. So
Yeah, it's an interesting differentiation between, as you say, back in your day, it was probably the golfers who were really seeking to go on tour and then maybe just didn't have quite that in them and then almost use that as a fallback. Whereas now you're mentioning that younger guys, I'm off around 5 or 6 myself at the minute. So maybe like someone like myself who actually wants to get into the industry, and it's more a path they're seeking now in the first place rather than just a fallback. And what age is your son? Is he just started the process, or where's he at with everything now?
he's year two. He's a year two PGA trainee. He's 26, just.
Okay.
But did A levels, went to uni, decided that university wasn't for him, and then went on a little program for 2 years of working, trying to experience golf. He didn't know what he wanted to do. I think he wanted to come into golf, but didn't know. So he was lucky. He got to spend some brilliant time with Alan Hogg at Kings Barnes and Audrey. He then went out to the Grove with Brad Gould and Anna Darnell, and then he went to Emirates in Dubai and got to spend time with Dubai Golf and Chris May and Barney Coleman at the time at Emirates Golf Club. So he did a series of internships, if you want to call it that. Didn't earn a lot of money, and but wanted that broad experience. So he's got a pretty good experience really for a 26-year-old. He's got good experience. He'll do his PGA stuff. What he's going to do, I don't know, but that's entirely up to him. As long as he doesn't beat me and make me miss a cut one day, that's all right.
Yeah, well, that's it. When was he up at Kingsbarns actually? Obviously, I was there last year, so I'm wondering
No, it would have been Kings Barnes 3 years ago, before COVID. So 2020, I think it would have been
Gotcha.
2019. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, 2019, I think it would have been. And then he did Kings Barnes first, then had the winter with us, then went to the Grove, then went to Emirates, I think. So
Is like his father plenty of travel on that agenda?
why not? There's
Why
nothing
not?
you're
Right.
going to spend. I mean, I think all I said to my two lads really is whatever you end up doing, you spend a lot of time working. For God's sake, let it just be something you enjoy. And Um, and they're, to be fair, I think they're both in that space. The other one's in pharmaceuticals and data, and he loves his numbers and his coding and all that kind of stuff. And Kieran loves the outside and people, and golf is a good thing for him. So a good bit of advice. My dad gave it to me, and I've passed that down the line. Whether they listen to me or not is entirely up to them. Uh, but uh, um, but yeah.
Yeah, it's good advice, and you wake up with a bit of a spring in your step, knowing that you're actually, if you're not exactly where you want to be right now, at least you're pursuing something that you're passionate about. I always thought that about like I think I knew from about 16 or 17 that I wanted golf and business to coincide, but I didn't really know how that was going to happen. And then again, going back to your point, I just stumbled across something. I think it's phenomenal the amount of people I speak to that like luck or serendipity is really involved in their journey. So they either get a phone call from someone. The last guy I spoke to, actually, a guy, Sean, from a company called Members First. He wanted to go into golf management, and there was just a new plot of land opening up in New Jersey, and they just got a call saying, "Do you want to be involved in it?" Just completely out of the blue. So I actually think the majority of the people in this industry, there is some degree of luck that starts them in their journey, and then the ability to capitalize on it, as you say, like you took advantage of the luck whenever you got it, and you put in
I
the
think
work
that,
to get it.
that's where the individual person comes in. There's always somebody gonna. It's either gonna happen to you by luck, or you never know. You never know who your next boss is, and you never know who's going to open a door. Um, and you should always leave somebody. You should always leave a nice impression. Always leave. Always, always, always. When somebody puts the phone down to you, okay, yeah, he's a nice guy, because you just never, ever, ever know. And something might happen 30 years, 20 years down the line, and it's a relationship that started, I don't know, on a golf course or in a bar or after an event or whatever it might be. You just never ever know where it's going, so, or where it's going to
Totally.
come from, and that's exactly how it happens, no matter who you speak to.
Yeah.
So
And I think that that's a nice transition point, because obviously you were working as a PGA professional, and then there must have been a point there where you realized that there was an opportunity for something like the 59 Club to exist. So maybe talk to me, when did your mind start transitioning to see golf more as a business for yourself, as opposed to just actually working within the industry?
Well, there were two things that the Belfry, my time at the Belfry taught me. To be honest, my first thought about businesses started probably 2004, 2005 on my own. So I'd been at the Belfry for 14 years nearly. There's no real place for me to go higher. In that, I was head of golf. I
Mhm.
controlled golf. I could do what I want. It was great, right? Don't get me wrong, it was a brilliant job. Um, but I'd always wanted to be. There was always that entrepreneurial urge inside me, and
Mhm.
I think rather than earning that money for somebody else, it was time for my mind started to go around. How should I want to earn it for myself? And the first thing that opportunity I saw really was all the way corporate golf days were organised and the way they were dealt with by venues. So the skill set inside the clients wasn't really there, and therefore the venues got away with, in general, whatever they could to make as much money as they could.
Mhm.
So there was a gap in between that sat around event management, and where you could run an event for a customer, make some money from the customer, and make some money from commissions on taking that business to different people. So my first thought was always to set up an events business, and that's what I did do. A business that's still going now. So I set up a business called the Aspiration Group, which started in 2000, end of 2005, 2006. And that ended up evolving into an ABTA atoll bonded tour operator that did business travel, conferences, golf events, incentive programs, whatever. And it's currently run by one of the staff that started it with me.
Wow.
So a girl called Naomi, who started that business with me, one of my first employees, who I gave some shares to at the time, uh, ended up buying that business off me in 2019. So she now owns that, and they've got a business in Dubai, they've got a business in the UK. They do high end, lot of footballer stuff and private jet stuff, and so that was the first gap that I saw. But then the other one was really, and where 59 Club came from, is my last year at the Belfry. I was looking at how I get. I was trying to be honest with myself, and I sat down and tried to do my own strengths and weaknesses. So I did a SWOT analysis of my operation and what I was doing. And one of the weaknesses really that I had, but also then became an opportunity, was I was honest with myself, and I didn't really know what was going on. And that might sound, well, what are you doing in charge for then? You rub it,
Mm.
and I'd got feedback, I'd got surveys coming in, right? I'd got that kind of data. I'd got people complaining. I went and talked to event organisers. We had our staff events. We did staff feedback. They helped drive strategy. We did member surveys of the clubs. We did all of that. So you might think, well, surely you knew what was going on, but I didn't really know what was going on. And the way that I meant is that I didn't actually know what my staff were saying, and in the way that they were saying it, and was that the way that I wanted them to present the brand. And so in my last year at the Belfry, I started to jot down all the things that were really important to me, that spun out of the Belfry's mission statement and vision, and strategies around what we wanted to be. And then I
Mm.
started to write down all the things that I wanted my staff to do and to be saying, and the way I wanted them to behave. The Belfry had built a brilliant complex. It was superb at channeling nearly 1,000 people a day through, right? And you're talking 700 people playing golf, and tons more people in the golf bar and the driving range. We were taking 1,000 people a day into the golf operation. It was really good at channeling those people and moving them around and taking money off them. But I wanted to do it in the best way possible while still delivering that high volume, high profit model. So it wasn't a that's the model that it was. We couldn't deviate from that.
Mm.
So how could we do that and make sure they came back whilst extracting as much money out as we could from them while they're on site? We had to deliver the best experience possible. So we had to do the two things together. It wasn't one or the other, and it was chipping away at one whilst not damaging the other. Because the more higher level of service you give, the higher cost you create, your wage percentage starts to change, your
Yeah.
model isn't as profitable. That's not what the Belfry's business model was. So, so basically, 59 Club spun out of that idea. I looked for somebody to help me do that, and there was no company who went into the level of detail that I wanted. There's loads of mystery shopping businesses, right? You can get students to do it you for 10 quid for the cost of a meal. For you can get people to give you little survey feedbacks, 10 or 15 questions. That's not the information that I wanted. That I wanted to run my operation with, and so 59 Club was came out of that. What do managers want? What do the best managers want? And that's what I then sought about doing. So as I left the Belfry in 2006, started my own business, took on the right sort of people, gave shares and incentives to the people that I started Aspiration Group with, and we were working together for as a goal to grow a business, and we had an ownership model inside there. And then as soon as that business could afford my wages enough to live on, I
Mm.
then started to play around with the idea of 59 Club, and was there a business there? And in about 2009, I'd changed it into a product, and I'd worked with the Belfry and the Forest of Arden.
Mm.
Two venues, worked with their general managers and their greenkeepers and their directors of golf and their revenue managers, and tried to get into their minds about what they actually wanted, and then set about creating a product that delivered it. And 59 Clubs really evolved into a product that is now delivering the information that the best managers in the business want.
Mm. And
That's what we do.
so obviously I've never been a manager of a golf venue, so I'm generally intrigued to know like what is those key bits of information that the great managers are looking for? Like is it member based? Is how visitors interact? Like what are the touch points that your system is actually taking in to then feedback the
It's
information?
looking at all of the human interaction points. So where you've not got very long, you might be at a reception desk and you might have 3 minutes with a guy, 2 minutes, 3 minutes with two or three guys, and there's other stuff going on around them, and you might have 5 or 10 minutes in a golf shop with somebody who's milling around chatting. You might have 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes on the phone talking to somebody about their company golf day. You might be talking to somebody about joining a golf club in person. You might be sat down with somebody who joining that golf club might be the biggest expense that they've single expense they've got in their family budget as a social sporty activity. Right, joining a golf club is miles more than a football season ticket or a uh, or most things that you're gonna like. Golf's expensive, can be expensive as a sport. It can be really done really cheaply, but in general, once you get into it, it's a drain on finance. So they want to know what's going on, how are relationships being built that that embed that person into that business,
Mm.
and or make sure that golf day is going to come. Even if you mess up their golf day a little bit, do they have you built up a level of trust? Have you built up a belief that when you promise them that "Look, we will do that better now," because nobody's perfect, right? That doesn't exist. Can you build that empathy? Can you create that warmth between two people in a short period of time? And if you create it at multiple touch points, that's saving you. The return on investment on all of that is huge. The all of the unmeasurable stuff, the amount of times they talk about that experience when they've gone away. And I'll ask you, you're a golfer, you go off and you play, right? You talk more about the negatives in general than you
Yeah.
talk about positives. If you have a bad experience, or if somebody's rude to you, or you might go to a really famous venue that maybe treats you like not quite how you think they should. That sort of says they're more bothered about their members than you. And you'll talk about that. Yeah. Likewise, you might get entirely opposite. You might get a venue that you think is ultra exclusive, and you get lucky and you get there, and it's anything but that. And it's the warmest welcome. They make you feel
Yeah.
special, uh, and you spill that journey. You spill that thousands of times.
Yeah.
Right? People want to talk about their experiences in life, right? You don't talk. You talk about your work a little bit, but if you're a software engineer, am I bothered about how you coding that you've had that day? If you're you talk about the experiences that you have in general out of life, or
Yeah.
work ones that are interesting to other people. So that's really what 59 Club is, and then what we do then is measure that. For anybody that doesn't know what we do, we measure that in minute detail. We put it into some software, benchmark it in the cloud. Everybody knows what good is. They can KPI their staff and their teams to drive that level of service. Add that to the other data that they've got, and make really good decisions on their business strategies.
Mm. I think it's really interesting you mentioned about the warmth you feel when you come to clubs. And as a visitor, it's almost that intangible element that you feel when you go into a club. There's one club I always feel it in Northern Ireland. It's Ard Glass, which is actually the first club I worked in.
Okay.
But a guy, Paul, there, the head pro, I think he's done a fantastic job in creating like a culture of feeling welcome and open. And like whether you're a member or a visitor, it's just something special about the experience. And from the outside, it seems intangible. It's like they've got some magic sauce, but inside, there's probably a lot of decisions and maybe not calculations, but certainly thought went into figuring out. Okay, Graham arrives at the club at 8:50. What does his first 5 minutes look like? How does his interaction in the pro shop look like? What does he look like when he goes up to the bar? Like, there's
Absolutely. That
various different.
then the best venues are thinking in that way. Their facility is their facility, right? And you can upgrade it, and you can change it, and you can paint it, and you put new carpets down. You can do your new bunkers or whatever. But you're either going to like the golf course or you're not. You're either going to like the design or you're not. You're either going to like the decor or you're not. But all of that can be added to. Even if some of those are no's, you can still go away with a positive. Yeah, the golf course was okay, but I tell you what, people were lovely. It was really nice. It was really welcoming. It was this. They did great food. The girl behind the bar was chatty, or the lad behind the bar was chatty. You've mentioned golf. You've mentioned the golf pro. Golf pros have got a huge amount of social skills. We wouldn't we're in general shoved into a driving range and a pro shop and we've got to get on with somebody who's either having a great time hitting balls or a bad time hitting balls. We've got to talk to somebody who's in the shop and we've got a huge amount of social skills, and golf pros are good at journey planning and taking somebody on that journey, and it's nice to hear that you see him as being part of that. It's good.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. So if there is like a venue that are looking to take their first steps to say like maybe they're of the opinion that you were back in 2005 or 6 where they would sit down honestly and say we don't particularly know what's going on, where would you advise them to start? Like what would the first few things that they should look to improve be?
Yeah, I mean the best way, we've seen multiple ways of doing it over the years, but I think the tried and trusted way is you have to come from the understanding of you've got to bring the staff along with you. So they've got to take ownership of that journey. It's got to be their journey. It's not you saying this is what's going to happen. It's their journey. So in our case, you do a trial to start with, get a line in the sand, and sit down with the team then and say it's only a one-off, so there's no judgment here. But this is where we rate. This is where what we did on that day rates with that. This is the data of what the best in the industry are doing. This is what's possible out there. Where do we think we can get to? What do we think we can do better? And sit there with them and work it all out. And because it has to come over naturally, it has to. You can't teach somebody. They've got to create their own scripts, right? If it comes over false, it's you better not doing it. Being brutally honest, it has to be natural. So if somebody's a cheeky chappy, don't stop them being a cheeky chappy. Just channel the cheeky chappiness that they've got.
Yeah,
If somebody's if somebody's shy uh, and maybe demure isn't the right word, but if somebody's shy and tends to retire a little bit, think of the right role that they should be. Just because they're a good golfer, it doesn't mean they should be out front. They
yeah,
might be much better one to one than one to a group or one to a few or who are you putting into what place and 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 all of that starts to spin out of recruitment is a massive thing that spins um, out of starting to understand your customer journey and the skills that are needed in each particular spot. And moving somebody who's got nothing at all to do with golf to be a front person in golf, I've seen be a brilliant success.
mm, yeah, it's
Absolutely
interesting.
brilliant. They only need a basic golf knowledge to be out front, and their character then carries the rest of it. One of the I'm really lucky. I spent many years as a member at Loch Lomond and only just finished. Uh, and anybody who gets lucky and goes to that club, all right, there's lots of good things about it. There's lots of things that people would change. But one thing that everybody talks about is Willie, who's in the locker room. Right? They'll talk about how pretty Loch Lomond is and the views, and they'll talk about Willie in the locker room. And he's
That's brilliant.
probably he's not a golfer, right? He loves his horse racing, he loves his football, isn't a golfer, but deals with golfers all the time, and he's just one of the most hospitable, friendly, nice people, and he's in the right role for his personal skills. And I mean, everybody used to tip Willie, and he's probably the richest man in Scotland. Willie is, I'd guess, right?
Yeah.
But
It,
probably the most valuable man to Loch Lomond.
mm, it's so interesting because you have, Loch Lomond being a premium venue with this, fantastic facilities, and that is what you remember from it, which kind of furthers your point that the human element of your interactions while you're at the golf club is just so important because, as you say, your referral, your want to refer people to that experience becomes so much greater. Then, like, you're probably telling tons of people about Willie and your experience with him, and that creates a want for people to experience that themselves.
That's my exact
Um,
point. And the business you're in with caddies, you imagine some of our Asian venues, their caddy is probably going to spend 300 minutes minimum with a guest. Now, the best golf managers in Asia are wanting to know exactly what's going on in that 300 minutes, because the retention, the repeat business that's going to spin out of that being handled well, you can't ignore it. You can't ignore that amount of time, which in essence could be a contractor. Technically, the way that some of them are employed, but most of them aren't.
mhm.
They're almost contractors, and their loyalty to the business. You've got to think about all of that in that space. So what goes on in that experience in different parts of the world, different things are more important to, and different clubs. The journey around golf clubs is very similar. Even ultra private, you look at it, it's still very similar, right? The things that those managers say to me compared to ultra commercial are very, very similar. But then likewise, they've all got their own nuances where one particular part of the business is ultra important to them and
Mm.
has a much bigger influence than on their business than it does on somebody else's. So it's fascinating, and that's why people want to know.
Mm. Yeah, there's so many different touch points. The penultimate point I was going to bring up, Simon, was I know you touched on it earlier, was the mystery shopper side of things. And I know you have your own kind of spinning things and how you do at the 59 Club. So I'd be intrigued to learn more and how the whole mystery shopping experience works.
Yeah, I mean, we've to be honest, we've built a set of criteria that's non-subjective, and it almost doesn't make any difference who does it. It could be it could be a person of color, a person of non-color. It could be young, it could be old, it could be male, it could be female. There's very little space in our criteria to um, for for the different types of journeys that those people might want to personally have to come across. That's not really what 59 Club does. Um, but there is some free type area where they can express the personal parts of that how that day was to them. And our managers will read that in detail because it's given to them with no bias, and there's
Mm,
no reason for it to be good, bad, or indifferent. It just is what it is, and all they've got to do as a tester for us is deliver a quality, accurate test rather than feedback that suits their agenda. So,
mm,
so we initially, when I started the business, we used to employ people to test, and now we don't. We have volunteers. We spend a huge amount of time training those volunteers and working with them and getting them to understand what we're trying to achieve with our customers, because people's jobs depend on that data, people's KPIs, their bonuses, incentives, their annual figure, all of that kind of stuff is run by our kind of data. So the quality of it and the accuracy of it is unbelievably important. So we spend a lot of time with our testers. But yeah, we have thousands of testers around the world now who we work with. Our American business has got 5,000 of them on its database that it uses, and some will do one a year, and some will do a dozen a year. and they'll get to experience some really good stuff, cool stuff. Um, we pay for all of it, so it's a nice day out. We
Mm.
expect a lot of accurate feedback from it, but we expect a nice day. We look after them, and it really works really well for all our customers. So
Yeah, it sounds like a great day out for the average golfer to be able to get things paid for and enjoy a nice day of golf.
it does
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, well, Simon, that was a really intriguing episode, and I think the first one that I spoke to of being like a PGA professional and then pivoting to go in towards business. So very personally interesting for myself, and also I'm sure a lot of viewers would find this useful. If there is anyone after the show that wants to connect with you or have a chat, where would be the best place to get you?
Just email me, Simon at 59club.com, and whatever part of the world you're in, we can have a chat. We've got 11 different businesses now around the world. So we've got 59 Club in Canada, in America. We've got 4 in Europe, 1 in the UK, Middle East, Bangkok, Korea, and Australia. So wherever you are and you listen to this, get in touch, and I'll talk to you, and we'll direct you to the right place. Whether you want to be a tester or you want to work with us.
Awesome. Yeah, that was fantastic, Simon, and a pleasure to have you on. And I'll see you in Orlando in a few weeks' time.
Absolutely, Graham. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
no problem. Cheers.